Everyday Inclusion and Belonging, where we talk about everything under the sun related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm super, super excited. Shanice Johns from JCPenney is joining me today. Before we dig into that, a couple of things, y'all. First, I'm Mo Berkner-Boyd, founder of the Moxie Exchange and the Everyday Inclusion app. I'm a white woman, mid-length red hair. Today, I'm rocking some black frames, and behind me is my bookshelf. It is the start of Indigenous Peoples Month. And with y'all know, I've brought it up in the past, I'm bringing it up again. There's a phenomenal app called Native Lands. It is global. You can go and see whose ancestral lands you are living on. I'm in the Arapaho and Ute tribal lands. And it's weighing heavily on me today. I just want to really think about that acknowledgement, particularly with everything that's happening globally, crisis in the Middle East. We've just got a lot of conversation about colonization. There's a lot that's heavy right now. And folks, I will tell you, check in. Check in with your Jewish coworkers and friends, your Muslim coworkers and friends, your Israeli, your Palestinian. It is a lot. The folks that I am close with they're struggling. And we've seen in Everyday Inclusion a spike in folks looking at things like anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. They're watching our inclusion interviews with particularly Jewish and Muslim folks talking about their lived experience. So people really are wanting to do those right things, give them the tools, give them the resources, and again, check in. It's a little longer than I usually start with Shanice before saying, oh my gosh, welcome. Super, super excited to have you here to talk about your journey, JCPenney's journey, and all the great work that you're doing. Welcome. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. And Mo, thank you for reminding us of what's important and what's happening. I'm going to download the app because I'm very curious now. I hail from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So our headquarters is here in Plano. And so I would be very curious to see kind of, native land, where my home is at the moment. But again, thank you for inviting me into the virtual room today. I'm looking forward to our conversation. A little bit about me. I joined JCPenney in July of 2022. So I've been in the role a little over a year now. And I've been doing this work, for the past 10 plus years, directly or indirectly. I view my role as that of a, change agent. So I spend a lot of time talking to people, negotiating, navigating, helping to influence and facilitate how we as an organization show up. What are the things that we strategically focus on from a diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ultimately creating a workplace, where we're fostering belonging with our associates. And so I tend to partner a lot. So that's, my people who know me know that's, I like to build relationships because I think it's important. And I work really closely with our talent and our HR teams to really hone in on what we focus on across our business, both domestically and internationally.
There was so much in that I already love, and I can't wait to dig in on. So you've been doing this work for 10 plus years. What led you to it? I think it's always interesting hearing people's paths.
So as I mentioned, doing it directly and indirectly. So indirectly, so I began my career focused on, talent development, particularly focused on first time, frontline and emerging leaders. And that led me to more advisory positions where I coached and helped leaders and executives to navigate complex organizational, change issues. And that's kind of how I look at this work with that lens in terms of blending my background in talent and organizational effectiveness to focus
Yes,
on how I
yes, yes,
approach the
yes, yes.
work.
I'm so excited, right? Yes. You're
Yeah,
speaking the
and how it
language.
impacts leaders, behavior, culture change. And there are a few moments in my career where that really led me to, say, yes, I want to focus here and I want to continue to do this work. One in one organization that I worked in, I noticed a trend of what was something that was happening with associates who were not in the majority.
Mm.
Many looked like me, and they were not getting access to particular projects, assignments, roles. Feedback tended to put them in the bottom quartile, when it comes to performance and potential. And I knew some of these individuals. And so I started digging a little more. I was in a leadership role, so I could do that, without, creating a career limiting move. I conducted some focus groups across the spectrum of leaders across the organization, across associates, really to try to understand what was happening. Now, this was before I knew that there was a role that you could do this and really focus on a full time. This was in my, part time. And I noticed, something that was trending where certain leaders would say, I don't have time to teach those people. I don't, they don't do the work the way I like it done. They don't just show up the way I prefer in terms of ways of working. And so those experiences gave me exposure to some trends that I was seeing when it comes to experiences of women, and particularly those who are socially, culturally, and economically diverse.
Yeah.
So I'll put it there.
I love the way you said those three things too, right? Socially, economically, and what was the third one? Culturally?
Culturally diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, love.
And so the data showed us that, when you don't have the same lived or shared experiences, you kind of show up a little differently. If you didn't go to certain schools, if you didn't come from, your pedigree was different. And so, and we all know that we have data that shows us that women and people of color, they don't tout their own horn. They may network differently, if at all. And not as assertive when it comes to, how they're pressing for, those assignments and the relationships. And for me, it was deeply personal because as someone who is first generation college graduate, who didn't have a lot of connections, who, stumbled my way through it, it really kind of cemented that, I wanted to do this work. And I actually took the work that I was doing and started applying to the work that I was doing with my clients at the time. And so it really is to kind of help level the playing field. I want to help, others have an opportunity to grow, develop, and bring their best self and most authentic self to the workplace. And so we can all benefit from inclusion and belonging. Yes. But we have to do the work.
Yeah, there's no magic pixie dust. I mean, we had some really cute fairies come by the house last night. Candy, but right, nobody's sprinkling the inclusion dust around. You do have to do the work. And I love that everything, kind of the puzzle pieces that all came together, Shanice, where you were talking about everything from change management. There was individual unconscious bias in there that everybody has. You were talking about some systemic things around access, right? So really loving the 360 approach that you're taking to this work. So let's talk about kind of where is JCPenney in the journey now? Right, you've only been in the role since earlier this year.
So July 2022. So early, so a little over a year.
Okay.
But it's like, I tell people it's like dog years because people think I've been here longer. So because you're in the meeting, you're meeting a lot of people, and they're like, "You've been around, haven't you?" I'm like, "No, it's only been a year," and they're like, "What?"
That's good, right?
Well, and when you have when you spend some time on the consulting side, where in the beginning you have to get to know the client, get to know the business, and so I've spent some time getting to know the business, going out and talking to people, getting to know who we are as an organization, who our customers are, our associates, and so it does probably feel like that I've been around for like eons.
Well, and that's so key, right? I don't think that there's a single person that we've had on, and just right, that it's sort of that baseline is you have to go and listen. Listen and understand. And particularly, J.C. Penney has a long history, right? And a lot of legacy and a lot of and that can make a role like this very challenging.
Or it could make it actually, in some regards, a little easier because, when I think about at our core, inclusion and diversity is one of our is the core of who we are. Inclusion is one of our deepest values at JCPenney. Our purpose and mission is that we exist to celebrate and serve America's diverse working families. In fact, in our 50 plus million, loyal customers, a third of them are socially, culturally, and economically diverse. And so at the core, this work makes sense and it matters. Our workforce reflects our customer base. Greater than 50% are socially, culturally, and economically diverse. And so our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion goes hand in hand with our culture and values. Wow. And that's been since the beginning. I mean, we're based, our founder, his motto was, treat people, the way you want to be treated, right? And so that's the golden rule. And so we have it, all around our, organization, in our buildings. The golden rule is highlighted there. And so we're committed to building, a space that's equitable, inclusive, where remote results-minded individuals can thrive.
I love that it's in your DNA. Right? Like that's the way I would say that. It sounds like it's in JCPenney's DNA.
It absolutely is.
And knowing who your customers are, right? And serving those customers, knowing who your associates are and creating that environment. So what are some of the things that y'all are up to? How are you approaching the work? And what are some things that you're seeing really working?
So something that's really working. So I'll talk about our associate value proposition. And this is the framework where we put our associates at the center of everything we do and connects to how we, approach, how we activate and connect to the purpose of celebrating and serving diverse working families. The AVP, our associate value proposition, this is our litmus. It's our North Star. It's our guide. It's the filter that we use to identify and evaluate the priorities, our initiatives. And this came about from feedback from our associates through various listening tours or survey. We have an associate engagement survey. We use that data and insights. We have candid conversations, and we ask questions, that get at the heart of what associates really want from us. And there are 4 pillars. It's shared purpose. And so that's how we connect the initiatives and our associates to the communities they serve and the causes that matter to them. Well-being. So we focus on the whole person. So an associate's physical, mental, emotional, and financial well-being. We're very centered and focused around how we commit to personal growth and development. And then the 4th is empowering individuals and teams. So how we equip associates to really own the work, have the appropriate decision rights, to be accountable, and have the flexibility. And so that's what people really want out of it. And so we've seen this really resonate with our associates in terms of how we communicate around the AVP, how the things that we do or focus on really do kind of help us walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah.
And so, when I think about what I've seen in some other organizations, inclusion and diversity, back to what you say, it's in our DNA. It's a real part of our business. It's embedded in the work we do in partnership internally across the organization. It's the work we do with our business resource teams, which is our form of an employee resource group, or ERGs. And that's how we, foster authentic, community connections and a sense of belonging for our associates and our customers.
What's your favorite? Like there's so much there, Shanice, that you just said that is so right. I love you've got your 4 pillars, you've got your North Star, really centering your associates. I heard some data in there that
Yeah.
you're tracking, right? That you're and y'all, did you hear that she said they do a survey and then they actually do something with it?
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't tell you
Yes.
how many organizations are spending this time and they're doing these surveys and then nothing happens.
Correct. Correct.
And that's part of doing the work, right? You said we have to do the work. So you're asking the questions and then you're actually doing the analysis and making change.
And we communicate to them that we took, that we captured your feedback, and here's what we heard, and here's what we're doing about it. So we're taking action. So yes.
Well, and I think that piece is so key too, the connecting the dots, because we've also seen where an organization might take action, but they haven't connected the dots back to their employees. So the employees think that nothing has happened because it's not, hey, there's a direct line from what we heard from you to this thing that we're doing, right? That we're investing in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when I think about, how we show up, or what this looks like in our organization. Our business resource teams, as I mentioned, they're business resource teams, and they're made up of our associates. And so we lean into them, not just in those cultural moments, whether it's, Black History Month or Pride Month or Hispanic Heritage Month. We lean into them as it applies to how we want to authentically show up in the communities in which we exist, the customers in which we serve. So, for example, we lean into our HOPE, which is our Hispanic organization, for insights on how we want to show up with our Hispanic customer. Our commercials for our Hispanic audience are not redubbed into Spanish. We record them in Spanish. We look for models that represent the community. We work hand in hand with our, HOPE BRT around, how do we do this and how do we do this authentically? We offer localized products, in terms of, to meet the demands of specific communities. So that's a way, right? When we think about,
I'm just gonna have you pause for a second there, because I think, y'all, I want you to hear what you just said. They've moved past food, flags, and fun, which is what a lot of employee business resource groups can be, to literally having that group help inform how they are doing business.
Correct. That is that part.
That's the power of well-run strategic business resource groups right there. Right? Like y'all are platinum standard in terms of what you're doing. So pat yourself on the back.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We'll take it, but we're not resting in our laurels, right? Because, there's a lot of work to be done. Another example is we lean into our Mosaic, which is our Black employee, resource group. And we partner with Mosaic to launch, and this year was our 3rd year of our HBCU Design Challenge, and we launched that, across, all of the historically, Black colleges and universities. We had record number of submissions this year. We just, brought the finalist in, and she did a tour, and she got a chance to be poured into from a mentoring standpoint from leaders across the organization, in particular within our design organization, and we're just continuing to explore, ways that we can identify the next generation of talent, right? Whether it's going to our Hispanic serving institutions where we can identify, top Hispanic and Latin, next generation, designers, graphic artists. And so we're looking for ways to expand our reach, but always with the lens of, how do we continue to, again, foster inclusion and diversity and belonging, not just, with our associates who are here, but the ones who are coming, right, in the future.
I got goosebumps when you were talking about her coming in and being able to, and I love that being poured into. What is there? So what do you, oh, I have so much I want to ask you. Half an hour is not going to be a half an hour is not going to be enough. We're going to have to.
I know.
What are you excited for what's next? What do you see kind of maybe even talk about dog years, right? Let's just even say a year and a half out or 2 years out or 3 years out.
So I'm excited about so many things, right? Like the work that we're doing. When I think about I don't know if you've seen our commercials, the Make It Count, with emphasis on, those moments that matter, helping, diverse working families to, get the things that they need. And it's making fashion accessible for everybody and everybody. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to continue to be a partner at the table with, across our organization, to be, embedded and truly integrated in how decisions are made around our business, how we make talent, decisions. So making sure that we're at the table in terms of their talent and total rewards framework, and being viewed as a partner across the business. So I'm really excited because there's so many dimensions to this work, and I know a lot of people have gotten caught up in different parts, or they think that we've forgotten some things, or that we're changing names or changing things, but the focus is still there. This is still important work, and we're going to move the needle, and we're going to continue to focus and center this work on prioritizing human connection and respect. And I'm just, my boss always tells me it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, you have so many ideas, and you're like, I'm probably like, I go to sleep thinking about this, I wake up thinking about it. And so I have to just contain myself. And more importantly, I want people to understand that, DE&I is not going anywhere, whether you call it inclusion and diversity, inclusion and belonging. It's not the flavor of the month. It really is important. And it really is, the fabric of how you really bring about real change and improving the lived experiences of your associates, your organizations, and our customers too, because of my business is retail. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it brings to mind right. So we know that microaggressions fire off the same neural pathways as physical pain. And so when I think about the environment that you're creating for your associates and your customers, right? Like, I think about a friend, she's an executive at a tech company. She was stopped at a high-end retailer and questioned, right? And she said, I don't have time. I don't have time to deal with all of the bias, all of the assumptions being followed around in the store. But trust me, I'm going to tell everybody.
Yeah.
And she's told everybody, and I'm telling everybody.
Correct.
And in that moment, right, the experience that she had to go through, right, and then go back to work and go back to, right. And so when I think about the impact that y'all are having in this work, particularly when you're saying that a third of your customers are socially, economically, and culturally marginalized, like, that is, it just makes me even happier that you're on and sharing all the good work that you're doing.
And so I'll tell you, related to that, sorry to cut you off because it really is, I think it's important. We're creating, and so one of the things I'm excited about that's coming, we're in 2024, we're bringing back, our inclusive learning portfolio. Within that, we are moving, not just focusing on leaders within the organization because they're important, but we're also looking to cascade this down into the organization for all associates, right? So having creating upstanders at every level, right? So creating, really thinking about how do we create cultural competence and awareness at all levels of the organization.
Yes.
Um, how do we bring about accountability for all of us to operate, under the golden rule, right? We all have some bias. And so bringing some education and awareness on, maybe maybe there is something to what this individual is saying, et cetera. And we do a lot of work with, as you know, in our business, we have salons and we have beauty and we, merchandise. And so we do a lot of work across those businesses to really ensure that we are educating our stylists, we're educating, our beauty reps, we're educating our associates on, how to treat the customer, right? So that we don't have customers that have that experience. And so it's really important to me that our inclusive learning portfolio is provides something for everyone, and not just leaders, right? We're going to create these moments to build upon this excellence of not just focusing on the cultural moments, but really helping us kind of create that competence across the organization.
Yeah, right. Because it has to be in the right, because it is those everyday experiences, whether it's with team members or with your customers.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have a million questions and we only have a couple minutes.
I know. I can come back. I'm happy to come back.
Great. Great. So I am curious, give me just one hope for the future before I ask you for your truth bomb. Like, what are you excited about DEI in the future? Let's just say in the next 6 months.
My hope is that 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 we don't lose, that we don't lose faith that this work is important and that it will continue. I think I've seen some of my peers who are exhausted and tired.
Yep. There's a lot, right? There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of headwind right now.
Correct. And so what I would say to that is sometimes we all, and I'm a spa girl, so right, go refresh, rejuvenate, revitalize. Read the book, buy the bag, buy the shoes, whatever it takes
do you in terms of refilling your cup
to connect, but not give up. And so I really have hope that while we don't have and I say it all the time, we're at an inflection point, right? We may not have the George Floyd moment that we had in 2020, but you brought it up already. There's so much going on in the world, anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim. There's so much, anti-Asian. There's a lot of when you see this happening and you see it in the news and social media, that tells me that this work is still important and that we still have a lot of work to do. And so I always assume best intent. I always assume positive intent. And so I'm always going to look for the positive. I'm always going to look for how can we do? What can we do? And so, my hope that over the next, 6 to 12 months, that there will continue to be conversation around the value of DE&I to organization, why it matters, why it's important, because Gen Z, the generation that grew up with their friends that don't look like them, they had the sleepovers with friends that didn't look like them. They went to school, they learned how to study for a whole year on Zoom, and so they're expecting different, they're expecting a different world, and so it's up to us to start to really pay attention to that world. So.
I love that. And remind me, Shanice, I'll send you, we actually are just putting together all the data that says you look away at your own, right? Step away from this work at your own risk. The world is different, and we can make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
So leave me with one last truth bomb.
Oh my gosh. I thought about, what when you said it, it was like, okay, just one. And I know we're out of time.
Right? It's hard, isn't it?
So real quickly, one, it takes more than passion and excitement for the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or being a member of an ERGO. It's not easy. And so there's a great deal of, you mentioned data, there's a great deal of science as there is to art, to how we approach this. And there's no one way. And you mentioned that as well. The work isn't going to go away too. There is no finish line. This work will continue to evolve. We're evolving as a human race. We're evolving as a world. It's evolving. So there's always going to be a place. And I would say to someone aspiring to do this work, don't shy away from the things that make us smarter, and don't shy away from the conflict. I actually appreciate having different and diverse perspectives at the table. I think that everyone should be heard. I think there should be, the reason we have the recent Supreme Court affirmative action decision is because individuals felt marginalized, right? So I think there's a place and there's an opportunity for us to bring people back to the table, and I think it's important that we have, diverse perspectives, and that's the only way that we can thrive. And so I know I was more than just one.
That was great. No, I love it. I love it. You packed like a volume in that. It was perfect. Shanice, we are going to have a part 2. I appreciate y'all. This is one that I encourage you to give it a watch and a listen again. We will have it posted. It'll be on my feed forever, but we'll also have it posted out on the Moxie website. Shanice, thank you. You filled my cup today. I don't need to go to the spa. You did it for me. And keep doing great work. And all of you that are a part of this community, keep doing great work. Get out there and do the next right thing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.